You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Hello and welcome back into My Wheelhouse. Today is February 26th. Looking ready to get rocking here. Joined by the usual suspects as always. Sloan, Uncle Mike, what's going on, guys?
Things are good. Things are good. March right around the corner.
Yeah, college basketball.
So hopefully we can get into that. I know you texted this week. You were very disappointed in college basketball.
I was.
You gave it a look and you kind of turned away.
Well, in the final day before.
You got your UVA colors on today. I love it.
That's true. Trying to support your cause.
Thanks. Well, you didn't support them while watching them the other night.
I mean, we'll touch on it now because I didn't really put them on the wheel. But before, I think it was the Wednesday before the NBA
playing
return.
Georgia.
After the All-Star break. I watched
because there were no pro
college
games
basketball
to
was
watch.
the only thing on the television.
Yeah.
So
that's awful. College basketball is the only thing. College basketball is
it was
it
like
right
sports
now.
limbo.
Yeah,
sports limbo because it's only college basketball. I gave you guys a chance to.
Yeah, and the chance fell. It fell short for me.
Yeah, but I told you before what you guys have.
Was it Thursday night? I was like, Chrissy, there's no NBA on still.
Oh, get over it. Get over it. You guys have got a big problem. And what it is?
Problem. I watched the number one team in the country struggle to beat a awful Georgia Tech team. They ended up winning by 10. The final score was like 60-50. I was not impressed by anything.
Yeah,
I understand.
And I know why. I can tell you why.
And you told me that was one of their weaker games, and I
they play ugly. They do. They're going to win by 10 points, and they're going to score in the 60s all the time.
Yeah.
That game, my cable was off, so I had to listen to it on the radio, and it put me to sleep listening to it on the radio.
Your favorite team put you to sleep.
But what your problem is, you guys don't have a favorite team.
No,
You do not have a favorite college team, and you can't watch college basketball without. You got to watch the team. You can't watch the players.
It's become URI for me. I mean, my wife's.
Yes or no? Are you watching every URI game?
Everyone? No.
I mean,
okay.
So
how much of a fan are you?
There was a period.
I watch
I'm
every
a fan
game.
of pro sports.
There was a period when I would watch probably 75% of UConn's games back when they had actual reputable NBA future prospects, and they were also a team that my family had stake in.
There are fans out there.
But now it's at a point where I have no connection to any of these teams personally and any tertiary members of my family.
I think it's really tough.
And you're missing something. You're really missing something.
I don't know
we
if
went
we
to
are.
school.
We're filling that void that you think we have with lots of other things.
I'm just telling you. You know I'm a basketball fan. You know I follow it. I've watched every Providence game for 60 years.
Right.
All right, so I am vested, and they're not even the team that I watch right now. And Virginia's the same way. I've watched every Virginia game for 9 years. I've watched virtually every, and I am vested in those teams, and I enjoy it immensely. I enjoy it more than the pro game.
Hours in the day.
More than the pro game. Yeah. Not really. It's 3 teams.
Yeah, maybe down the road if my time is more open.
So you'll get ready for March Madness, but
that's the pinnacle of basketball. That's when I'm going to watch the most college basketball. Is when it's most popular.
You're way off on that, and you're just not informed.
So that's, I mean, I don't know about that. I mean,
maybe our significant others aren't as forgiving as well.
Virginia's probably got 4 pros on the team.
Maybe late second round draft picks. That
No. They've got a lottery pick on that team.
Who is a lottery
DeAndre Hunter is a lottery pick.
He is not a
yes,
lottery
he
pick.
is. Have you been watching him?
Dollar.
Okay, that's top 13 picks.
14 picks. I'll give you 14 picks.
He's not. They don't come out early at UVA.
Put it on the board.
Okay,
They
ever.
don't come out early at UVA. Kyle Guy's a first round pick.
Kyle Guy.
Devin Hall, maybe a first-round pick.
I think you're really high on all these guys.
I'm just telling you, based on the guys that are in. You look at all the guys that are already in the league.
But I'm telling you, how often do you
Devin Hall's 6'6" and the best defensive player in the country.
I don't know about that, but how
he's best defensive player in the ACC. So
okay.
He will be the best defensive player in the ACC.
Wow, that just changed.
Yeah, but you're really
from country to
ACC. If you're best defensive player in the ACC, you're borderline on best defensive player in the country.
I mean, but there's a huge difference between being the best defensive player on a good defensive team in the ACC and comparing him to Jaren Jackson or Mo Bamba, who are actual
not at all.
Superpowers that are going to be elevated.
You're going on that. I think some of the worst coaching I've seen this year is Mo Bamba and DeAndre Ayton. And Miller and Smart.
So what?
They've been hard.
I don't care about the coaches in comparison.
Send them
obviously,
to
Virginia's coach is obviously better than Sean Miller. That's like a known fact.
Yeah.
I feel like that.
You know, it should be a lottery pick. Hurley.
Yeah,
get him in the NBA.
Yeah.
Who?
That's not what I'm judging. When I watch basketball, I want to judge it off the players. And what I'm seeing in the players, I'm impressed by coaching when they motivate player success in the NBA. But I don't care about a team success if it doesn't lead anywhere.
Are you into the pack line defense?
Sometimes.
Well, sometimes. I mean, there are articles on Sports Illustrated did 5-page article on the Pac-12.
I would be more interested if the Celtics
Tony
all of a
Bennett has
sudden
done
started
that for
implementing it left and
8 years
right.
in a row. Has any coach 8 years in a row? He's put that system in, and they've had it going. What kind of coaching is that? That's
He's
great
a great
coaching.
coach. He's a great. I agree.
And it's a great team.
He's a great coach. It's a great team. Why does it matter? That's my point. He's a great coach. It's a great team.
It
None of their
matters
players
to
are relevant.
basketball fans.
To college basketball fans.
College. So does it? You're now to be an NBA fan is better. You get that again.
I get that again.
10-8.
10-8 and 4.
I was close.
You were right there.
I was close.
You needed
I'm
last
fading.
night. It was actually very intense last night.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I already had my list of T-shirts. Now I'm gonna have to look the other way.
It was the 8 or 9 o'clock games, the Washington-Philly game and the Denver-Houston game. Sloan needed Houston and Philly to win both, but luckily for me, Washington pulled out the victory. I get the medal on my chest.
It's so ironic too, because I feel like Philly is one of your
Usually,
favorite
I
teams.
always pick Philly. It was a huge.
And
it was
so
a huge
I
choice.
picked Philly,
Right,
and then
right.
they just, oh my God.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy.
Laid an egg.
So I think we can get to the wheel. We got plenty to talk about.
Washington's playing well.
Yeah, we like Washington. We talked about that
We
before.
were just talking about them. I think they. I'm going with Beal over Wall.
Look at that spin.
That was nice. I stabilized the wheel. I took home the stand.
something well
I took
today.
home the stand.
It may never stop.
Hopefully. Jimmy Butler relatively can be quick. It's not a full meniscus tear, but he hurt his meniscus. He's going to get a minor surgery. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks.
So what's meniscus as opposed to a ligament? Is that like?
I'm not sure if it's
Is
on
it a
the
longer injury,
I'm not sure if it's on
longer
the
term
top part of the knee or the lower part of the knee, but it connects your ligaments to your knee.
recover faster than ACL?
Yeah.
Way
be back
faster.
this year.
He might be back this year.
Yeah, no, 6 weeks is the max amount of time that we're going to be seeing him out. But the reason that it's interesting is right now, a lot of the Wolves' success has been because of his performance. He was commonly considered a top 5, like right around 5 or 6 level MVP candidate at this point in the season. His ability to motivate that team to win. So without them, it could be a little nerve-wracking for Wolves fans and fans of them breaking into that playoff race on whether or not they might revert to old habits of last year. With Wiggins taking over the large role of offensive creator, where it gets clear that is not the solution for them to be able to win the most games as possible. So I want to gauge your thoughts on whether or not this is going to hurt them. Are they going to drop out of that 4 or 5, drop down to 7 seed maybe?
I don't know if there's a more valuable player to his team than Jimmy Butler was to maybe not in the league, but to his team. And he was the best player on the team, but also the glue guy at the same time. Glue guy and the best guy on the team. Representing the coach and Coach Tibbs. I'd be very surprised if they can surface without him.
So
he's a very strong, silent leader. He's a very great defender. He's just a franchise player. He's a scorer.
We didn't think he would be. We weren't sure he would be.
He usually plays against the best scorer of the other team,
the
best wing player of the other team, and
it's
a real bummer to see. He's a great guy,
We all went with Paul George over Jimmy Buckets in terms of quality of player. I don't know whether I feel that way anymore.
For me, it's always been
I
neck
like
and neck.
Butler a lot now.
We're talking the 11th best player versus the 12th best player in the league for me.
Yeah, but we probably went at the beginning of the year. We probably had George way ahead of Jimmy Butler. We were thinking about who would be best for the Celtics. Yeah, and we went with George overwhelmingly over Jimmy. But now
that's more solid because of the play style, not necessarily because of what they contribute in terms of.
But I like Butler's play style now.
Yeah, and it may not necessarily be the most perfect fit for the Celtics in terms of how Paul George might fit a little bit better. But overall, in terms of ranking the players, those guys are right there. It's interesting to think about moving forward. The Timberwolves, we've been talking back and forth. I mean, I know last week we discussed how the Sixers have the easiest schedule, and looking forward, it could be interesting now, especially with Kawhi confirmed out for the rest of the year. The Spurs have the hardest schedule, and how that's going to affect that team's output. Timberwolves are right in the middle of the pack here, so it'll be an interesting test.
No pun intended.
Right. It'll be an interesting test for this squad, and to see whether Cat can carry them to be able to stay in that middle morass there, because teams like Denver, maybe we'll talk about them later, even the Jazz, a lot of these teams that were in the past weeks were like 6, 7, 8, have the opportunity, the Thunder, to rise up to that 3, 4, 5 spot and maybe knock off a team that was excited for home court. Where on other teams like the Warriors, obviously these teams don't necessarily need home court, but a team like the Timberwolves could have actually benefited from that, especially if it was in a 4-5 matchup. So it could be interesting. This could hurt them a lot.
A lot of value in those teams taking a step forward and becoming a top 10 team in the league. Yes. That's a big advance for Minnesota, and they don't necessarily have to make the Western Finals at all to have a successful season. And they're on the verge right now, but I think this does them in.
Right. Well, it's sad to think about because they had the longest playoff drought in the league coming up to this year, and it's assumed that they still make the playoffs, and I believe that they will because I think they built a strong enough season so far. But it's sad because if you just follow that fan base and how their expectations have evolved over the years, they came into the year saying, I think we can absolutely make a playoff push. We're going to break this awful seal that we've had for so long, capping us from getting past the 8 seed. And then it evolved past that, saying maybe we can win a first-round series, and maybe we can compete against some of the top teams in the second round. And they weren't expecting anything crazy like going to the conference finals or the finals, but they were really heightening their expectations as the year moved on. And now to see those expectations really get downced a little bit, I'm not really
like a
sure.
roller coaster for their fans.
I agree.
I think their GM should be a candidate for GM of the year. I mean, he's done such a good job.
Well, it's a big turnaround.
Right. I know most of the GMs.
From the beginning of the season, there's a lot of bad talk on Coach Tibbs on this panel, and a lot of bad talk about players playing too much and how they were being handled and how that team was evolving. And
I think we have a lot of respect for Tibbs.
I mean, Jimmy Butler is among the top 5 minutes per game in the league. Like, I'm not saying that this is a type of a usage injury. But maybe you can say whether or not those things are connected, maybe not. And now with the much more weight taking with Butler gone, having to be put on the shoulders of Teague, Towns, and Wiggins, with them having the big role.
They get a little.
Towns and Wiggins just doesn't even sound like it's going to compete.
They already get a little sloppy just when he's on the bench when he's healthy. So I think they lose their cool a lot. They lose rhythm, and they definitely turn the ball over a lot. Like there's a lot of cutaways on Shaqtin' a Fool of Tibbs just going, what just happened?
Having next to no voice. So it should be interesting. Good. I think their goal should be as long as they don't fall to the 7 or 8 where they have to match up with the Warriors or the Rockets, then they'll be fine. And
the goal is to make 6.
And they can be able to tender their expectations back to what they were before if they have to match up against a team. Think about it, they're just flip-flopping with where they thought they were going to be with the team that was going to be at the 6 with who they'll have to match up with. So hopefully they can stay out of that 7-8 range, but it is nerve-wracking if you're a Timberwolves fan.
I'll tell you what, though, a day after successful meniscus surgery, Jimmy Butler was scheduled to meet with a kid who was sick, and he comes in on his crutches and still meets with the kid. Make-A-Wish Foundation. Yep. The kid was blown away. You know, he was expecting this thing to be canceled by his rep or his PR guy, and he comes in with the crutches and sits down and talks to him for quite a while. I was like,
it was a good interview.
I love Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler's a stand-up guy for sure.
His All-Star interview was really weird, though. When you saw that, it was.
Well, he's goofy.
That's what he said.
He's kind of a weird guy, but he's a nice
guy. I'm a weird guy. I'm a real goofball. That's what he said to him. Know it right away. I'm weird.
Yeah, he likes karaoke and country music, so he's
that's right. It was something.
It's cool with me.
All
right.
All right.
Happy healing,
really
Jimmy.
Well hopefully it's closer to the 4-week timeline than the 6-week timeline.
To think he was a top 5 MVP.
My wife had meniscus issues.
He was.
Figure skating.
Oh.
Ooh, one of the small slivers. No. All right, so a quick just check in on how the tank is going. We're not fully immersed in the one of the biggest tanks of NBA history yet, but we're brinking on it, and how that'll.
I think you're going to be a master of the tank.
I thought it said tanky prospects.
Oh, it kind of looks like it. So and how that'll affect where certain prospects land. I think it's going to be really interesting moving forward. There's a lot of games going down the stretch where you got the Mavs versus the Hawks and stuff like that, where 2 tanking teams come up, and it's going to be who can be the worst team on the floor, and it's going to be so interesting, and it's going to be very interesting into how this affects punishments moving forward, because stances have been made on whether or not to punish teams that have made obvious choices to tank. We've already seen things. The Bulls just this week. Larry Markkinen had a kid this week. And,
really?
Yeah, congrats, Larry. And,
is he younger than Tatum?
I think he's 1 year older than Tatum. I think he's 20.
Okay. He's like 20,
well, Tatum's
21.
still the youngest.
Yeah.
Well, no, some of these guys have kids going.
But he had a kid, and 2 days later he had a game, and apparently his flight got canceled a day and a half before the game, and the Bulls were able to smooth it over that, his flight got canceled, he can't make the game, even though he had plenty of time to go. So we're seeing lots of silly things to really make sure that players aren't attending games.
That is silly. It's silly to focus on that. I don't think that's happening. I think,
it is. It's blatant.
It's obvious.
I don't
think so.
I think that
I think there's too much professional pride among all these guys, and that unless you're a Cuban who's got fined $600,000 and comes out front, these guys, the way that's why they're going to be a master of the tank. You've got to do what's right. You can't be delaying guys' flights. That's not happening.
No, I think So
you're going to play younger guys.
People are going to go either way, but if an
you're
excuse arises
veterans.
that they can capitalize on, they're going to do that. I think you're going to.
Guys got a sore foot.
You would be surprised at the number of GMs and managers and owners in the league that have similar interests to Cuban and are thankful for Cuban's outspokenness, for his ability to parallel their interests and them not to be able to step out into the limelight.
Absolutely
and I think that teams like the Hawks and other teams that are in the bottom are going to be like analytic departments from these teams are going to be doing reverse analytics, like sabermetric basketball. They're going to be seeing together what lineups they can put together that will be the worst lineups.
Yeah. No way.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
I think so,
that is
too.
going to happen 100%.
That's going to
how analytically
they're going to be meeting before games to see what's the worst team they can put on the floor.
Yes, absolutely.
They're going to
like extreme
they're going to be
tanking.
looking which team they can put on the floor that doesn't expose them to tanking. They're not going to do that.
Yeah,
they're not going to put the bottom 5 players on the floor.
No, it's different. It's different.
That's what I mean.
It's not
the
the
master of the
tank.
tank.
It's not the yes, the master of the tank is what's going to happen. Analytically, there's
gotta know how to do it.
There's lineups that the Bulls can put out where they have 0 shooters on the floor, but there's still a positional filled that have like maybe Chris Dunn, Nwamba, Robin Lopez, Felicio, and then you put another guy that just and together the lineup you would be like, oh, like maybe this is the lineup they have out, but you don't realize that this lineup has played 0 minutes together in the season.
Give me college basketball over
awful.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think
we're
more times than not, the teams that are tanking are the ones you don't realize are tanking. And the ones that you're making judgments
so I'm
on,
telling you it's going to be obvious.
that you're looking at and say, that team's tanking. More times than not, that team's not tanking. The one that you're looking at them, they're not doing it. It's teams that are doing it, again, are the masters of the tank. They're doing it, and you don't even realize they're doing it.
I think that it's going to be obvious. I think that's going to be obvious. There's 8 or so teams that all want those 5 picks, that top 5 selection, and I think that all of these guys are going to be vying back and forth. We're going to see some weird calls by coaches in the final minutes of games, close games between the Phoenix Suns and the Orlando Magic.
No.
We're going to see Frank Vogel call a
yes,
we are.
You're not going to see weird
I
calls
think
by
now
coaches to try to influence the game in a negative way. You're not going to see that.
They're
These guys
they're
are
not trying to lose, but they're not trying to win.
at the
I think now that
pinnacle
they've
of their
changed it
careers.
to the worst 3 teams have a 14% chance to get the first pick.
Yes.
I think that's actually might provoke more tanking, like extreme tanking.
well, that just-
because now you don't want to get like the 4th worst or the 5th worst. You want to make sure you're one of the 3 worst teams.
Well, so that's interesting. So when the change was first announced, I said that was probably going to change the section of the league that would be tanking, and it may more emphasize the teams from like 11 to 7, and you could see those teams at the end of the season making a split decision whether to make a push for the playoffs or to absolutely drop all their games. Right now, we're seeing
But a
these are the
team
8
that's
worst
5th worst, they're gonna try to
Right.
definitely
Right.
get into that
But
bottom
one of the
3.
problems I have with this is there's games that are going to matter. And the games and to say that teams are tanking in games that matter with teams that are in the playoff race, I just can't buy that.
But they matter to different
I can't buy that.
teams in
Atlanta's
different
going
ways.
into-
I don't think you understand that every team's front office evaluation of this season moving forward is the best option is to lose. The best option for the future of this organization, the best option for, even if it ethically doesn't make sense, and the ethos of the story is, what the heck, why would you ever do that? And moving forward, these teams know that the best way to improve this team that is crap is to lose
What I'll be
these
interested
games.
in from both you guys is going forward. You tell me every week which team tanked. I want to hear it. I want
I
to
mean,
hear which teams are tanking.
that was an example. I just gave you an
but
example
what?
of the Bulls tanking already.
Because marketing got late to a game on a flight, I'm not buying that
He didn't
shit. I
get
think
late.
that's
It was-
really weak.
It was purposely them holding him out. It's them
Purposely what? Telling him not to fly in on
Yes.
time? No way.
That happened. I don't understand what you say. No way, that happened. Like, that's something that happened.
They didn't do it to influence the game. They did it because he just had a child, and they gave him an extra 24 hours.
No, that was an excuse that arose.
I don't buy it.
He's their
Okay.
either best player
All
or
right.
second best
continue
player.
to keep bringing him up, and I'll tell you when I agree with actually there's a tank out there.
You see any games from the top prospects that you like? Whatchamacallit, Marvin Bagley came back after missing 5 games, and he's
Yeah.
looking really good.
Yeah.
In his absence, Wendell Carter has rose up the draft boards.
Well, Wendell Carter is
Together they look great.
on the list. And,
yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will. I'm disappointed in Ayton and Bomber's development, and I don't understand why those guys are in college this year. I don't get it, especially when you hear more. They would have developed far better in the G League. They would have developed far better on the bottom of a roster on another team than they have with
They're in
Arizona
college
and
this
Texas.
year because they're forced to play at college.
That's the system.
And I don't even understand. Well, we'll get to that, but I don't even understand how desirable DeAndre Ayton is. He's going to cost Miller his job, and he's going to be there for 1 year, and he's gone. I got a problem with all of that.
If you think about Arizona this year, if they didn't have DeAndre Ayton,
and he's not the only guy. They just lost the other guy too.
I'm saying
Trier,
if they
is gone.
If they didn't have DeAndre Ayton, they would probably have 0 televised games. They would probably lose out a lot they would probably lose out a lot of extra revenue that this high prospect.
And that becomes the bottom line.
And that's why he's there.
That becomes the bottom line.
That's why he's worth
right.
Phoenix Suns are probably salivating over the possibility of getting him.
Yeah,
especially
Phoenix
considering
for sure.
He's already got a backing there.
We'll see. It should be interesting. I watched a couple games. Jaren Jackson has rose up a lot.
I like Jaren Jackson a lot.
He's had
he
some
had a
great
different
games.
body than I thought. I didn't think it was a lean body like that. I thought it was a power body. And I like him. He's
got a weird push shot though. It's kind of like it's kind of heave. I don't know. We'll see. They're all intriguing prospects. We'll talk more if some of them have good games or not. But
Mike does not want to stay on.
No, I guess not. But we can spin away unless you got some final things. Trae Young after his big.
Do you like DeAndre Hunter?
DeAndre Hunter?
Yeah, from Virginia. He's not
best,
watching him enough.
He's their best player. That's
when
he's
their best player is a sixth man coming off the bench. You've got a good team.
I think he's their best. Well, I mean, Zach Collins was the best player in Gonzaga last year.
Yeah, he didn't come off the bench, did he? Yeah, he did.
He did.
You're right.
I mean, that's why, like, that's
And
a
they were
perfect
good
example of why college basketball isn't the best perfect thing to watch.
College basketball
the best
is
player
the best.
When the
I
best
love
player,
college
when the best
basketball.
players
I
aren't.
am fully vested. I can't wait till the next URI game. I can't wait till the next UVA game.
Me neither.
I can't wait till the ACC tournament.
Me neither. I like every bit of sample and evidence that we can have for these players moving forward where their careers actually matter. I'm down. Zaza Pachulia. Oh boy,
one of my ugliest. He's on my ugliest
he's on
list.
your ugliest list. He is one of.
I think he's relatively handsome.
He's got one of the biggest heads in the league.
He does have one of the biggest.
The reason he's on the wheel.
Like
Among other implorable Zaza things, his recent game against the Thunder, Russell Westbrook fell to the floor after a layup. And Zaza took his time in putting his full body weight and falling on Russell Westbrook's knees.
Bad depiction of what happened.
And you can say
bad depiction.
You can say maybe Nick
didn't
Young
have
got
to
tangled
fall on
up,
top
but that's
of
not what happened at all.
Okay, now you're getting a little bit closer to it.
No, so you can. It's either he's an extremely dirty player or he's the clumsiest player in the league.
He's close to the clumsiest player in the league.
And I think he's both. I think he's a dirty, clumsy player.
He's not
he's
my favorite dirty player.
I got him on top 5 of my dirtiest list.
And that's a good list. Why haven't we made that list yet? But those two together make him that much dirtier. The fact that he's dirty and clumsy make him even more dirty because of how unknowledgeable and
I watched that play a lot of times.
And he really helps the Warriors be the most hated
I don't
team.
think Russell Westbrook is. I mean, he already had one this year. Remember, what's the one where he took a bad flop on one and he was protesting like crazy? That happened earlier in the year.
Wait. Who cares about what Russell Westbrook's response was? Who cares about
Russell Westbrook wasn't. He had no idea what happened in back of him. He was looking in the other direction.
He had no idea what happened on back of him?
No,
he got landed on. What do you mean?
But he didn't know what happened and what caused him to land on him.
You don't think that Russell Westbrook saw the replay before he made a statement on that?
I don't know if he did.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he did. I don't think he did. I think he reacted right away. And I think what you're omitting
Mike, it was already on his phone by the time
after
he
the
made
game.
the
It wasn't like he walked off the court and they asked him a question. It was after the game. Time had passed. That was probably the first thing
ready. He was loaded for bear. And now Young.
Little league game.
No, what you didn't mention about Young is that his foot hooked in back of Zaza's
It wasn't a karate kick.
Threw him off balance. You're acting like he took a dive on the Westbrook leg.
No, it wasn't. It was a slow, deliberate fall. It was a slow, deliberate
fall.
fall. He fell to his knees, and then he fell on top of his legs.
Young's foot caught him in back of the knee and put him off balance, and that's why he tried to stay up and not fall.
Every who's 150 pounds.
Every single other player who's the same height, same weight as Zaza gets put in the same situation, avoids Russell Westbrook's legs, unless they're also a dirty player, and that is so true.
If Westbrook was on Zaza's team, he somehow avoids falling on his ankle.
Zaza didn't have to land on his legs; he chose to land on his legs, even if he was tripped and his balance was offset by the minuscule affection of Nick Young's Tatum's foot to the back of his calf, he could have avoided it, and it was so obvious that he could avoid it. And the point
what has
is,
Zaza done to
why
sort
are you
of
trying
prove
to help
to you
him?
that he's a decent person?
Earlier this season, he punched Tyler Johnson in the face while he was running back
I'm
from loose
not
ball.
saying that he's not. I think
He's
he's on
pegged
the
people in the head with basketballs.
He tried to
dirty player.
dislocate Kawhi
I'm
Leonard's
just
arm
looking at this
several
play
seasons
over
ago.
and over again, and I'm not seeing somebody that intentionally fell on somebody's leg.
He looked at Russell Westbrook.
Okay.
It was a slow fall. He took his time. All of his body weight landed on Russell Westbrook's knees, the most susceptible to injury place he could have landed. He could have landed on Russell Westbrook's hip. He could have landed on Russell Westbrook's shoes. He could have landed on Russell Westbrook's shoulders. He chose the knees. He could have landed before him. He could have jumped over him. He's clumsy and dirty.
Hey, look, it's the guy who's beat us at home twice.
Yes.
Maybe I'll fall on his ankle.
He's kicked Danny Green in the face. Earlier in the season, he fell on PG-13's legs. He shuffled under Kawhi's feet
you
last
just don't
year.
have credibility to be judging these things, because I'm looking at this play right here, and I can't even believe that he kicked somebody in the face. I mean, I got to see that now. I'm not going to take it from you that he kicked somebody in the face.
But there's been so many instances of this happening. How can you just say he doesn't happen? I need to see the replay.
I think you exaggerate every one. And I think he's borderline, just like I got to say, Dirty Deli is probably on, and it's the weight, but at least he does it because he's playing hard.
Right, but Deli's a little bit different on the scale. Deli isn't clumsy.
He is.
Deli tries hard, so he's not.
Zaza is clumsy. He is clumsy.
Yes, I agree. That's what I'm saying.
That's a factor.
That is a factor. That makes him more dirty. The fact that he has
because
motivation.
He's clumsy, he's more dirty. That doesn't go together at all. You can be clumsy without being dirty.
But he is dirty.
I mean, I guess it's impossible in this case for us to judge intent. But
I just think
the fact is, his track record is there, and he did look down at Westbrook before he fell. So I'm going to lend some credence to what Westbrook was saying. I don't like Zaza as a person. I do think he's a hard-working player. Yeah. I think he's a great.
Well, I was going to get. Team. I hope I won. I was going to get one T-shirt. Now I'm going to get one with a picture on the front and the back.
Oh, you're not going to win.
I know, 10-8.
No, but there's just been so many instances, and it's just so obvious.
I hear you. And I'll look them up. I'll look at more. I'm just looking at this one.
And you bring up.
I wish he played more like Steven Adams.
I mean, I'll show you.
Steven Adams.
I'll show you some videos after
Steven
the
Adams
show.
Land on
but if you compare,
he's not as clumsy.
If you compare him to someone like Dellavedova, who has gotten a rap as a dirty player before, and I think Delly.
Because he's hard. He plays hard.
Delly plays hard, but he does have a reputation as a dirty player, and I think some of it is deserved. But it's different. It's different because
I would say
the instances aren't as dramatic, and there's certain.
I would say
there's clotheslining where you can make arguments for he's going for the ball, but that's not.
Who's the clothesliner?
Delly.
Okay.
The most recent one was Delly clothesline. Yeah, that was the most recent one.
I know, but it wasn't as bad a clothesline as the one that happened right after that.
Okay, so which one is a dirty?
No, but what I'm going to say is that what they have in common is they both have a role that they have to play because of the skill set they have. And Zaza has a role on that team as a hard player. He has to play that way. That's what he brings to the table for Golden State, is that he's going to be a roughhouse hard player.
All right, take the other players out of the other team.
Okay, I'm not.
What plays dirtier?
Not in this play.
What plays dirtier, the Delly clothesline or the Zaza land on Russell Westbrook's legs?
Neither one's dirty.
Oh my God! Now you have no reputation.
Well,
that's
I'm just
reasonable.
saying they're not dirty. I mean, they're both. I definitely think that this was not a. Man, there's dirty plays happening out there with elbows to the head, vicious elbows to the face. Those are dirty plays.
Ridiculous.
Your boy Joke.
All right, Nikola Jokic, one of the coolest unicorns in the league, one of my favorite players. Where'd
the unicorn come from? Is Porzingis the first unicorn? Is the unicorn just an oddball? Is that just somebody that does something nobody else does?
Durant called Porzingis unicorn. That's the reason we use the word unicorn. But all of these players have been grouped together since before.
Do you have to be a European to be a unicorn?
No, I mean Embiid is. I mean he's an international player, but I mean he is. I mean we've had the segment before. Remember we did faces before the season started where we had all the unicorns. Giannis is a unicorn. But anyway, Jokic has had one of the more impressive since the new year, turn of the new year, developments in his game. Obviously, he was all-star caliber player before that, but he's really turned a switch. In the last month alone, he's been really efficient, 55, 84 from the field and the line, averaging close to 2 threes a game, 21 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, a steal, a block. So he's all over the map.
Triple doubles in 3 straight games.
Yep,
right?
triple doubles in 3 straight games. With the last one, he didn't get a triple double. I believe he was 2 assists away.
Yeah, and he still had a
last
great
night,
game.
he had a 30 and 15 and 17 game against Milwaukee.
And he had it early. Remember, he had in the second quarter. He had the double-double.
It was close. He had it was an 11-minute one. We touched on that.
11-minute double-double.
Yeah, it was like 12 or something.
Triple-double. 11-minute triple-double.
11-minute triple-double. And I mean, he was on his way. He'll be the first player to get a 20-20-20 game.
How do you rate him defensively, Shea? I'm always interested. I think you have real good insight. I'll give you credit, Bob. Both of you guys have good insight on how guys play defensively.
I think that he's
better than me.
I think that he's an okay team defender. And I think that he knows when to switch, and his intelligence in terms of spacing is okay, and he reads plays well.
Is he a rim protector?
No, not enough. Not enough.
No.
He's a strong body, and when it comes to defending the post,
can he get out on a stretch 5?
Sometimes.
He's a little slow.
Sometimes.
He's got some deficiencies.
So if he goes up against a skilled low post player that can take advantage of him with up fakes and footwork, he's going to have a tough time because he is susceptible to that. But if he goes up against a powerhouse center, like if he goes up with Dwight Howard has no chance because Jokic stands his ground and he's very strongly grounded.
He's bigger.
But when we watched it, we saw it a lot last night. I don't know if you watched the Houston game, but when he's switched onto Chris Paul or James Harden or whoever it may be, an isolation type of a player, he struggles and he's inconsistent, but he does make plays. He had several plays where he stuck with Chris Paul down to where making a forced fadeaway 3 on 2 different instances as the shot clock expired. So he has flashes, and I think his defensive ceiling is there. I mean, he's averaging close to a steal and a block a game. I think that's more based off his IQ than necessarily his ability, but he's definitely not a strong defender. Okay. He's a below average defender.
One of the
He
key
gets
issues
exposed sometimes with small lineups.
One of the key issues to talk about with him is he's got an interesting contract situation.
Yes.
Where he's a second-round pick.
Right.
So that he's got some. They almost have to act on him now.
Well, he's going to get maxed. He's going to get maxed.
By Denver.
Yeah, unquestionably.
And this year, if
he's a top 20 player in the league.
And if they do it this year.
They're not eligible to do it this year. The
but they're going to have to do something this year, or they risk him becoming a free agent next year, correct?
Well, they have him as a restricted free agent. His eligibility begins, I believe, either in the summer or the beginning of next season, and they're going to give him a max offer, and it really isn't. I don't think there's going to be any questions about it. He likes it there, though. Yeah, he does.
I mean,
he loves
they
Denver.
showed their loyalty to him when they got rid of Nurkic.
All of that.
I mean, I think that they've done a very good job at tailoring this team to around him, and we're seeing statistical output from him that if you look in terms of how it's been matched in NBA history, only Westbrook, Garnett, and Larry Bird are doing the things that he's doing statistically in terms of points, rebounds, assists, and efficiency. And if you use a certain parameter.
Can he hit the market at the end of this year?
No.
He can't.
Denver's going to keep him. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be on the Denver Nugget for the long term. I'm telling you that now.
There's no player that you can guarantee that about, I don't think.
I'm guaranteeing it.
Okay.
Guaranteeing it.
But Denver
they
have a hard time attracting free agents, so they better.
If he was a
find
diva, he could potentially hold out and say that he wants an extension now.
Look what Anthony Davis is saying now. I think they all take a look at that.
Yes, but it's a little bit different.
They all look at Kevin Garnett and they say, wow.
Okay, so if you judge it against Anthony Davis, and we'll talk about him later, that team, Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry, has done an absolute crud job at surrounding Anthony Davis with supporting cast that can,
but they're playing well.
Can accentuate him. Yes, because Anthony Davis is losing his mind. But if you look at Jokic, they've done a very good job of surrounding him of some of the best cutters in the league, some of the best off-ball shooters in the league, and some of the other good defenders. And the player that team is missing that's holding them back from being a top 3-4 seed in the league is exactly the qualities that Paul Millsap has. And once he comes back and once they begin to mesh, that's a real team that in the following seasons is going to be a playoff threat. I think come 2020 that this is a top 3 team in the league. I think that Jamal Murray has real promise as a scorer and as a secondary creator with Jokic as the initial creator in the offense. I think Gary Harris is already a top 5 cutter in the league, among the league's best athletes, and he's really brimming with potential in terms of offensive creation.
But they're young, and
they got the building blocks.
Yes, all the building blocks.
And they got a ceiling that's huge, but they've got a long ways to go to reach that ceiling, and that makes them a question mark.
But everything's there, and Malone is a good coach, and the only rap that Malone gets is for his rotations. And I think if you look at his rotations,
so where was his father a head coach? Do you know?
Mike Malone. I don't.
URI.
That's pretty cool.
Good
fact. Good fact.
His father was
when was
that?
When was that?
Well, it's his father, so it would have to be probably 20 years ago. I guess
cool.
would be a guess.
But if you look at Mike Malone's coaching and how he draws skepticism from critics or whoever it may be, it often comes on his rotations and how he plays too big lineups. But I think that this season he's done a lot of that, trying to use placeholders in what would be Paul Millsap. And if you view what he's doing in terms of rotations, lineups, and plays and you just replace Mason Plumlee, you just replace Trey Lyles with what will be Paul Millsap, everything makes a lot of sense.
Is Millsap in his 30s?
Millsap is 31. He might have turned 32, and I think he's a good player for this team to have.
Yeah.
And that veteran
But
leadership.
as he becomes 32, 33. You know,
Right. No. But
He might not be.
It was only a 3-year deal to sign him, and it won't be as crazy as the Blake Griffin contract once he gets towards the end of his deal. And I think that he'll be able to affect this team and start to reel back once Jokic starts to prevail. Jokic is he just turned 23. And this guy's a future superstar in the league, and we have all-star ceiling in the players of Murray and Harris, that once those players reach a little bit higher of their potential, that it'll be okay if Millsap takes a back seat. So I think their timeline makes sense. And I think that even though they're a little bit away from what they need to be, they have everything there at their disposal already. And I'm not that nervous in terms of what their outlook is because they're already one of the most exciting teams in the league.
I hope they make a run this year because I'd like to see Jokic. I think he's right on the verge of breaking out. Even he's doing it right now, but it'd be nice to see him carry that into a round in the playoffs and really on a big screen and a big stage. Everybody see and this guy
they're
really
an underrated
shows
team. I think nationally they've really been letting us down. Like TNT, ESPN, they don't play them that often.
Right.
That's really upsetting.
They get gypped a little bit.
Not everybody's got the league pass.
No. But yeah, why is it the Lakers? Right.
It's unusual because they are kind of they're in like the mountain time zone or whatever you call it. So it's a little. Their games are later, but not like the
kind
not
of a funky in
right.
between time.
So they never get put in the right justice when they have like the 2 games, like the 8 o'clock and the 10:30. That they're in between, so they all kind of get gypped always out of that. But I love them, and I think that this is why the Timberwolves type of a situation is interesting because before they were looking like, okay, this will be the 6th team, the 6th seed, and maybe they'll be able to take advantage of the Spurs not having Kawhi or something like that. And I think if that series was to shake out that way in terms of the seeding, I would lean towards picking Denver. But now we're seeing maybe they could jump up, and if they had to play the Thunder, well, then I don't know. That could be a challenge that they might be able to handle defensively.
I'm not sold on Malone as a coach.
Well, I think he's a top 15 coach in the league. He's right around 15, 16 best coach. He's not a top tier coach.
I'd rather have Snyder. I'd rather have
obviously.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of guys I'd rather have
other
than
coaches in that element. And coaching does become more of a premium once it comes to the playoffs.
When you look at San Antonio going into Cleveland and knocking off Cleveland, you don't know quite in the same situation that if they lost Harris or something, would they go into Cleveland and beat Cleveland? I don't know.
Well, so that's why I think it's interesting because with Minnesota out, I think they have the opportunity to rise into a potential home court situation. And I think if they have that, they're commonly known. I mean, if you think about the best home court teams in the league, it's Raptors, Denver, San Antonio. They're right there in terms of the best teams that play at home, and I think that would really help them, and they're going to push for that. So I think that's something interesting to look forward to in the coming weeks.
Did you see the Nuggets put a picture of Tom Brady without a shirt on the big screen, and everybody started booing. And
they're still into that.
They started putting it when
Denver's such an also-ran now.
They started to put it when the Nuggets' opponents were shooting free throws.
Denver's an unusual fan base. Denver's an unusual fan base.
Very strange.
They gave Russell Westbrook a standing ovation last year when he knocked them out of the playoffs.
I don't know. I got nothing on that.
Russell Westbrook got his 42nd triple-double.
I don't think that would happen in Boston.
No. All right,
right down the middle. Sixers and Cavs.
Yeah, which one do you want to talk about? Sixers or Cavs? We'll do a quick one. I would rather talk about some other stuff in the wheel, so we'll do these quick.
So which one? I probably the Cavs I think is interesting. Their last game, which they won, right? Last night they played a back-to-back, so they won last night.
No, they lost to the Spurs.
Well,
they lost to the Spurs. The game before
LeBron scores 30. The rest of the starting lineup scored 14. Mm-hmm. The whole other 4 guys scored 14 total points. That's
what we were saying.
And had 1 assist.
They were kind of due for one. After having so many games where everything was so fluid and working so perfectly.
Well, it was just last week, Sloan. You were really high on Cleveland.
Well, I still think they have a good chance to be top 2
and I also, LeBron, come on. What the heck are you yapping about that? I know you get hit, and you, as the best player in the league, you do take some abuse. But I think you're just wrong to say that protecting shooters, and that's just not the way to put what's happening to him. That's not why he's. They don't choose to protect shooters and not LeBron. It's because LeBron's so big and strong. I don't think he's a freight train, and when you get to virtually hit him with a sledgehammer before you notice. That's why he doesn't get calls.
I think for a face of a league, I've never seen somebody so whiny. Like, during a game, after a game, it's just a bad look. It's like, and I think that's one of the things that's really hurting the culture of the NBA is that their leader, like the one who, like, drives most of the ratings, is constantly
he should get fined for this.
He should not get fined. He's completely right. He got absolutely slaughtered in that game. The fact that he only got fouled twice.
Has it got anything to do with them protecting shooters?
Yes, it's relevant. It's irrelevant.
Tell me how it's relevant.
It's a relevant statement
I
because,
can't get it.
Because every evolution of rule change has been to help shooters now in the league, and until last year,
two of which are on his team.
Until last year, when the change was made with the Harden rule, it was becoming a little bit atrocious in terms of how favored shooters were against big men and against thrashers.
Shane,
and if you look,
different animals. A guy driving to the hoop with guys hanging on him, and a guy stationary shooting. For an official or referee, that's night and day.
Okay, but if you think about it,
you can't group them together.
When I'm a shooter and I do this, that's getting called more frequently than LeBron James getting berated when he's taking layups. That's called more frequently, and that's what LeBron's talking about.
So what rules? What could you do to the guy driving to the hoop? That's obvious. That the Paul Pierce and all that stuff. You can make that rule change, and I think it's a valid thing to do. But what can you do to stop LeBron? And I agree. Everybody agrees.
You have to foul him. You have to foul him. What do you mean? What can you do? He's the best player in the league.
So it's called a foul, is what you're saying.
Yes, he should have shot.
It's not a matter of changing any rules.
No.
So LeBron is saying they're protecting shooters, but they're not protecting him. He's calling for protection.
Yes, he is. He's calling for accountability. He's calling out the referees because they didn't allow him to play the game that he plays. He scored 30 points. It was a great game. He only attempted 4 free throws. If he attempted 12 free throws that game, maybe that would have been enough. Maybe. His play style isn't rewarded the way that James Harden's play style is rewarded. The way that Russell Westbrook's
it's so big, strong, and fast that he is actually they're like flies on him sometimes. Sometimes he gets hit so hard that you see it in the replay and say, "Oh my God, I didn't realize he got hit like that."
So why is that a slight on him? Because he is telling people, "Hey, I'm getting murdered here. Please help me out."
What I'm saying, it's fine to do that, but if my eyes are seeing it, and then the referees are seeing that in fast time, they're not seeing when he gets hit, it doesn't affect them the same way, so the referees aren't seeing it. And I think that's part of it, is that he can get hammered and you don't even notice he got hammered.
But I don't like that because of how strong he is and because of how physically dominant
it makes it hard to call.
It makes it less of a foul?
No.
I don't know.
It makes it harder to see. It makes it harder to.
I disagree. I think it's very blatant. When he gets touched, it's obvious.
I think it's in traffic. I think it's in traffic a lot of times.
I mean, Shaq was the strongest player of all time. We always knew he was getting hacked.
Yes, same thing though. Same exact thing.
And I mean, LeBron does have plenty of games where he shoots the ample amount of free throws, but it is. We have several instances where we see, especially in primetime games where it's televised, where he doesn't get the proper respect from officials that I think he is due.
I've seen plenty of games where he gets phantom calls.
And
I think he does get a lot of respect.
He should get the most phantom
calls
in the league.
Called,
he should get the most free throw calls in the league.
Well, I think San Antonio gets a lot of respect defensively.
Yes, but I think it's a thin line that I understand where he's coming from. And in terms of a whining player,
I just don't get putting it on the shooters.
He's trying to say that
he's saying they're protected.
He's trying to say
exactly.
So how do you protect
dig the
him?
long ball. Chicks dig the 3-pointers, the big crazy threes, the swishes from
Well, what was this thing? The chicks love the long ball.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's just a different way
That's
to
not
put
a good analysis of his situation.
I
I'm taking to the hoop and I'm getting hammered, and you're not calling it. That's it.
He said that.
In the end,
it's not the chicks love the long ball.
I mean, you can only say something so many ways.
I think it's because he's an NBA traditionalist. Like, he's old school.
He is.
Yes.
He doesn't want to change the conferences to be 1 through 16.
And I don't either.
He doesn't want to, not have fouls called when you drive to the rack and play a tough game. He's let down by the fact that we're helping out this change of sort of NBA culture and the change of gameplay.
I just think that, and I understand what you're saying.
He deserves more calls.
In terms of his demeanor and how he comes off as whiny, and I do find that annoying as a LeBron supporter and sympathizer. Is obviously his worst.
Tom Brady does the same thing.
Yes,
that's
obviously his worst quality. But if you think about it, he's one of the highest IQ players this league's ever seen, and he's allowed to do that when he's right. when he complains and when he's annoying and when you say, "Oh my God, please shut up, LeBron," he's complaining about something. Oh, he's getting hacked, or the referee missed this, or you know what I mean.
I'm not objecting to that.
90 exactly. So
I'm saying that the way he attacked that issue with the protecting shooters and the chicks love the long ball is just not. All he's got to say is, I'm taking to the hoop, I'm getting hammered, you're not calling it. That's all he's got to say.
But right, he was. But
he's not really that eloquent off the cuff.
He went on. He went on to say that
he's not a rhetorical genius.
He isn't getting the calls he wants. That's what he said. And then when he was asked to elaborate on it, that's when he went to, okay, you're rewarding shooters for being able to draw fouls, but when I attack the rim and I get slaughtered way more than these shooters are, I'm not getting the same treatment. That's all he was trying to say. Right. It wasn't an attack on the shooters. Okay. It wasn't an attack of the treatment of shooters. It was just how he's not getting the same response.
I thought you were an ex-LeBron sympathizer.
What do you mean?
You used to be.
You don't think I like LeBron anymore?
Well, I thought you had kind of shifted on that. And
Never.
Really,
Shea will always be
really,
a LeBron sympathizer.
Still love LeBron.
Yeah, second best player ever.
Great player.
Yeah. What's the? Yeah. Okay.
Celtics.
Okay. Crazy. All right. So we played great against the Knicks.
No.
I thought we played great.
No.
For a little bit of the game. Maybe I'm remembering the wrong game.
No, either one of them. There were two games they played relatively the same in both games.
I thought we played pretty well.
Pretty well. I think pretty well is a good analysis. I'm not going to go with great.
Okay, I agree. I stepped too far. Maybe I'm just excited that the Celtics are back. But Marcus Smart is playing back. I think he's in the recent games he's reeled back into shooting and he's made more big plays down the stretch.
He's a welcome sight.
And big plays defensively, big plays hustle wise, and it's obvious that we've missed him. And whether or not his contributions helped in those two games more than or whether or not we would have won in those games without him or not.
He's got to be so happy for that slide that they had. He's like,
he needed that.
Give me that money.
Maybe that gave him $500,000 or something like that.
And he deserves it if he's going to bring that. If he's going to bring to the table what he brought to the table in those two games, and he's a very, very valuable player for anyone. And he can actually change the game with how he plays.
Right.
And there's nobody else in the league that does that. I mean, you look at Lance Stevenson, Draymond Green.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't think there's anybody else in the league that comes off the bench at his position and changes the game with hard play like Marcus Smart.
Maybe not to the degree of Marcus Smart.
I think you even see it with his.
He plays that way all the time.
Teammates. I think his teammates' body language.
Yeah, that's
it perks up.
Oh, Marcus on the floor.
So he brings that, and you know who
because he's not going to let them slack.
Well, and it's not just. You're right. It's not just that he's not going to let them. There is an energy that it's time to play like that. And Morris had a lot of energy. I like Morris. I've been down on his energy and how hard he played. He played much harder.
Something good
he played much harder, and I think that probably was across the board.
There's also less isolation.
I've got an issue though, and I keep bringing it to the table, and it's a long range thing. I think there's a loser in this, and it's Rozier. And I'm really wondering what the heck that is going to shake out to be, because I'm continually saying that Rozier is a frontline player in that league, and I'm starting to think, and I'm way out of the box on this, is how do you get Anthony Davis? And would I like that Celtics team right now more with Rozier and Anthony Davis than Kyrie Irving and Aaron Baines? Just throwing it out. And would I like that team more with Rozier and Smart and Anthony Davis, or with Kyrie and Aaron Baines? I like the team, I think, possibly more with Rozier and Smart.
Anthony Davis is better than Kyrie Irving.
Well, when you look at the situations going out there, he's a pretty desirable player, Kyrie Irving, and you may need, that may be enough ammunition to get you in the ballpark when you got now Anthony Davis is starting to make little overtures that maybe Kevin Garnett was a good idea, and at some point you got to look at that. He may put it on the line with his team and say, we want to go with DeMarcus Cousins and again, I'm way out of the box on this, but I see that as the problem with Rozier.
Kyrie's
is that he's not going to surface on this team, and Rozier is trapped because Smart's going to get minutes now. Rozier's going to get less and less minutes, but what Rozier brings to the team, that Irving doesn't, and Irving's big time, and again, I'm just out there on this, is that he brings a pace to the play. That it's one tick faster when Rozier has the ball than when Irving has it, and everybody feels it on the floor. So that when Rozier gets the ball, when he pushes, everybody else, and they got guys that need that push. Tatum and Brown, they live with that type of a push and that type of a fly up the sidelines that Rozier can produce. And Irving is a tick slower than that.
I agree with that, but his decision making isn't strong enough.
It's not there yet, but
it could be.
I think Stevens has done a great job of sort of integrating all of them together, so that they're used to being on the court together.
Rozier was not integrated last game.
I thought that he didn't play that bad.
He played well, but he played in his production came in time when the game was decided, and in time on the floor when the other players weren't on the floor. Smart's got it. Smart's got the spot.
I think, but that was known. I feel like
yes, it was.
I feel like the roles are differentiated properly.
I don't see a role for Rozier.
But
It's not as a shooter.
I mean, okay, so in the Knicks,
they don't need his ball handling.
In the Knicks game, he played.
Shane Larkin can give him a change of pace.
So what's wrong with in the Knicks game? He played like 21 minutes. He scored 14 points. What's wrong with that role that he plays as off the bench, out of pace, as you say, a big pace-changing player that comes in with the bench players. He comes in when Greg Monroe's on the floor. He comes in with semis on the floor. He comes in with either Tatum or Brown, depending on who's playing better and who's playing with what lineup. I think that player makes sense, and if he's having a strong game. Brad puts him in at the end of the game with the starters, and he earns those minutes. And I think I like him in that role. And until something changes between that dynamic of Kyrie, Smart, and him, right where he is right now makes the most sense. I agree. He could be more if he was given more leash.
Well, I don't
he doesn't need.
He's shown that he is more.
Yes,
and
but
that
why?
When
But
if you put him in a starting role, everything changes. The whole game changes for him and for the team.
Yeah, but is the team off that much better? Is what I'm saying.
Not without Anthony Davis, and not without getting something for Kyrie.
So that's what I'm saying. So with the dynamic that we have right now, every role that those three guys have makes sense. And
but who would you start right now if Kyrie was out? You would probably start Smart.
Yeah.
So if you had to in a playoff game, you would start Smart.
Yeah, you start Smart. You play Smart 20. You play Smart
31
but you
minutes,
and then you play Terry Rozier 28 minutes.
Rozier is a lead point guard.
Yes.
I think it's a good problem.
Well, right now he's playing
exactly.
third string point guard.
I feel like you're complaining that we're not able to give a good player enough minutes, and that's fine. Who cares?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we're not maximizing him, and that he's the loser.
I said
no. I said Rozier's the loser in this, is what I said, and he is.
So how do we maximize Terry Rozier?
He's the loser in this situation.
But I don't think this is stunting his development.
And all I said was Rozier and Anthony Davis over Kyrie and Aaron.
But I don't
think per 36 numbers are awesome.
Yeah,
his
he's
plus
great.
Minus is awesome. I think he's happy if we're winning. I think the Celtics are happy.
I think he
winning.
likes his role. I think he understands that he's one of the fan favorites. I mean, I have several fans, and I have several friends that Terry Rozier is their favorite player.
I think everybody in the league knows who he is now.
Yes,
too.
exactly.
I mean, really, he's got to be excited.
And in terms of playing behind one of the highest IQ bigs in Al Horford, in terms of the best ball handler in maybe league history in Kyrie Irving, and one of the smartest coaches in the league, he's under the correct tutelage that will develop him and foster him into an even stronger player without even needing to play over 20 minutes a game. So I really think that he might be in the best situation for his development.
No.
So I don't really think that.
He broke out. When he started those
you want to ship him off to Orlando?
No, I'm not shipping him out. I'm shipping Kyrie out for Anthony Davis.
No. I don't know. I don't think about that.
And to quote Lou Maroney, I see a lot of average Al. I see a lot of average Al the last couple games.
I think he's looked great. I don't care.
Average Al, you think he's looked great?
I don't care. You want him to score more than 3 points? Who cares? That's not his contribution.
I want him to score more than 3 points.
Why? If we're winning the game by 10 points, who cares how many points Al scores?
He's not much of a scorer.
He's our most important defensive player. He's not our strongest defender. Smart's our strongest defender, but he's
We've already got Aaron Baines in there and Tice. We can't afford to have another guy that's scoring 3 points.
Aaron Baines doesn't have half the impact that Al Horford has.
You want Baines and Horford in there with Horford scoring 3 points?
I want Horford in the game as often as possible. I don't care if he scores 0 points. That's not his contribution. His contribution is not scoring. His contribution is creating a flow for the offense, be able to create for teammates when they're moving off ball with Brad's system, and being one of the highest IQ big men defensive players in the league. And he does all of that to a T, especially when he only scores 3 points.
I agree with
because his effort is spread out more so when he only needs to score
14. When he's not scoring his 14 or 15 points, he becomes average Al.
No, he doesn't. He's still an all-star player.
Efficiency rating wouldn't be what it is without Horford next to him.
His 3-point game was still an all-star game.
Horford's impact is a lot greater than people give him credit for.
30 minutes and 3 points doesn't work.
Anthony Davis. All right, we talked about him a little bit. He's been absolutely nuclear recently. He's averaged in the last 2 weeks. You thought Jokic's numbers were impressive. Last 2 weeks, he's shooting 61 and 93, 2 threes a game, 42 points, 14 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 3 steals.
Wow.
He's had 7 5-plus block games this year. He's had 6 40-point games. He's had 13 15-plus rebound
They
points
don't
a
even
game.
miss DeMarcus Cousins.
I made a statistical comparison for Jokic, where he paralleled Westbrook, Garnett, and Larry Bird. Statistically, the only players in NBA history that are doing what Anthony Davis has done this year are David Robinson and Kareem. He's actually losing his mind. I have him third in the MVP race behind Harden and behind LeBron, and he is carrying this awful just slop of a New Orleans Pelicans roster that has actually benefited from the bringing in of Mirotic, and Gentry has shown some offensive creativity, and they've been playing okay, but this team is a playoff threat, and after Boogie went down, that is not something that we would have said. They won 5 straight, and this team looks really interesting, and I don't like it for the Celtics options to get him when he's losing his mind.
Davis is speaking out, and Davis is giving some indication that there's a time frame when he'll only stay so long without going someplace where he can do it. One thing I really like that I see is that when you take DeMarcus Cousins out, Anthony Davis becomes a bigger, better player, and that's nice. And I would rather DeMarcus Cousins. I don't see that Twin Towers is interesting to me as Anthony Davis on the floor as the big with a more mobile a 4 or a 5 up there.
They were pretty fun to watch.
I think they're fantastic.
And he's more fun to watch than he was when Cousins was there.
And Drew Holiday has strung together some more consistency. That has been his biggest rap against him, and he's obviously their second best player now that Boogie's out. And
with the thing with the Celtics is that's the Celtics' hole. It's right. Davis fills their hole. I mean, Baines and Tice and
Tyson's played great in starting.
Yes, and he didn't play that well the last game as a starter. He played well off the bench when he got to 19. He's had a tremendous year, and I really like him a lot. But that's the hole. That's where you don't mess with your team at all by plugging that hole. You plug that hole with Davis, it's right there, and everything stays the same around it. You take other players and you bring Kawhi Leonard in, and you really shake that team up. And where does he play? Where does everybody else go? And guys have got to leave. You can bring Anthony Davis in tomorrow when he starts playing with that team.
I think there's only about 5 teams in the league that wouldn't make the playoffs if you added Anthony Davis to their roster.
And I think that there's a good chance that the Pelicans might be one of those rosters, which is so unfortunate because it's so obvious that they've done.
He deserves so much better.
I mean, he's made Ejuan Moore a perennially commonly accepted as an average to below average shooter, one of the highest percentage shooters in the league because of the space and gravity that he creates as a big. And it's just so interesting.
Yeah,
that
but Ejuan Moore was doing that before Cousins went out.
It was my first pick for All-Star game.
But I mean,
Durant was the first pick, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he was crazy. We can do this afterwards. We'll talk about the FBI tomorrow.
Boy, the FBI's big.
I really don't think it's that big. A quick.
Well, ESPN's getting a lot of parts of the story wrong.
Patino's already lost his job, and Sean Miller loses his job. That's big.
We'll tease it. Well, that's their fault.
Think if it happened the day before the Sweet 16, and you get Arizona playing Michigan State tomorrow, and Izzo and Miller both get let go the day before that's big.
I just think that the probe is just to make a story, and we got these financing sports.
Not when you have wiretap.
These finance reports.
It'll still be here next week. It's a big story.
We have these expense reports from a 24-year-old kid that worked in this ASM management group, and whether or not how credible they are and how realistic they are. And I just think it's pretty goofy.
3,000 hours of wiretap conversations are going to go a long way. I mean, that's actually them talking. And 3,000 hours, there's stuff in there, and you've already heard what Miller is on those. Miller said
it's a bargain.
He told the agent
it's a bargain.
And it's definitely a bargain. It's definitely a bargain, but it needs to be addressed. And if you're going to lose your job over it,
that matters. I guess.
We have to talk about the bigger picture next week too.
Yes,
which is
let's
let these kids get agents. Let's let them use their name.
It's gonna pay.
And like
all of that.
If people want to pay,
you can't be selling a player's uniform for $135 in the store and he gets nothing. You can't be doing that.
Exactly.
Time to address that.
That's all the time we got for. We're going to do the medals off camera, but thank you for joining us on My Wheelhouse. We'll see you next week.